The mighty Michigan International Speedway has seen so much great racing over the years, but it has been more than a decade since this 2-mile track hosted IndyCar racing. Hi folks, welcome. This is round 3 of the iRacing IndyCar Challenge, part of the virtual NTT IndyCar Series. Lee Diffie, along with the NBC Sports regulars, Paul Tracy, Townsend Bell, we're all talking to you and coming to you from our respective homes. We're ready to get this going today, guys. 31 drivers in today's field, the biggest field thus far this year, and it's the first oval of the year. That's worth getting excited about, Townsend, isn't it?
It is. It's a bigger field, as you said, and a bigger track at Michigan, which means high speeds and close wheel-to-wheel action. It's going to be fast, flat out, and it's also drawn in some drivers that we didn't see in the first 2 rounds. Remember, Sage Karam, Scott McLaughlin won rounds 1 and 2, respectively. They're part-time drivers on the regular IndyCar schedule, so the full-timers need to step up. It's pulled in guys like Marco Andretti, Paul, along with some others.
Yeah, Ryan Hunter-Reay is making his debut in iRacing, and we've got the great Dale Jr., who is a massive gamer. He's been into this for a long time, so he's making his IndyCar debut this weekend. So the times have been super tight in qualifying. The whole field is separated by just a couple tenths, but the draft, Townsend, is huge. So these guys are going to get big speeds down the straightaway, and the tire fall off is pretty good too.
Speaking of big speeds, PT had a pole position here in 2000 at 234.9 miles per hour. So he knows what he's talking about. The 37, expecting a two-stop race, of course. Really essential to note, only one full driver reset. And Tony Kanaan is the only driver in the field who has experienced a victory here at Michigan International. Time now to take a look at the keys to this race. What are the important points and how are you going to win this one? Well, here are our views anyway on the keys to the race. Townsend, why don't you kick it off?
Well, Lee, you talked about experience in the real world at Michigan. Kanan, the only person that's won. There's only 5 drivers that have ever raced at Michigan before in the IndyCar Series. So for the rest of the field and those five veterans, patience is the key. You've got to get to the end. This is going to be a crazy pack race like back in the day. Smart decisions all day are going to take the win.
PT?
Yeah, these guys are getting a big draft down the straightaway, and as you get tire wear, you start to slide up the track. So if you enter on the low side and you have a car, these guys have been running 2 and 3 abreast. If you slide up the track, you're going to end up getting into another car. So you got to take care of the tires on these long runs.
And for me, it is about the big one or the big ones, plural. Speaking with the drivers, they are expecting it. A lot of them are just going to play it safe, or they want to play it safe just to be there the long run. So we will see. Can you stay out of that danger zone, so to speak? Really pleased to say that this week we've got Marty Snyder joining us in the virtual pit lane as we say hello to him. And what have you got for us, Marty?
Well, Lee, it's going to be fun to virtually report from Michigan International Speedway. And obviously, you guys mentioned a moment ago, Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the race today. I chatted with him a moment ago via phone after practice, and there he is right from his house right now. And he said, I feel pretty good about where I am. Actually got up to speed. He said, earlier in the week, I was a little bit nervous. I got to be honest about that. But I talked a lot to Jimmy Johnson, had a lot of practice with these guys, and I feel pretty good about how good the car is. So, Junior, we can see him from his seat. We'll see the drivers all day long from their seats, and we want to see where you're watching this race from your seat. So tweet us using the hashtag #TweetYourSeat, and we want to see where you're watching iRacing from Michigan. It's going to be a fun one today, Lee.
Dale Jr. has done about 5,000 iRaces. I think he is a big fan of it. A lot of experience, and you can expect to see that number 3 nationwide car at the front of this field because he has been practicing really well. All right, time for today's invocation, and we turn to IndyCar Ministries chaplain, Chuck Lessick.
Let's pray. God, we're thankful for time spent together today in community around this virtual IndyCar race. As our world continues to be challenged by this pandemic, we ask your hand of protection over all of us. God, we're thankful for the freedom we have in this country and the freedom available through you. Lord, we ask this race be a blessing to everyone involved. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Chuck Lessick there from IndyCar Ministries, and it's to get us going today. And now it is time for the national anthem to be performed from a contestant from season 16 of NBC's The Voice, Beth Griffith Manley.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Beth Griffith Manley there from NBC's The Voice. Beth, thank you very much. There's been a lot of practice, a lot of training, and a lot of build-up to this. The Chevrolet 275 at Michigan International Speedway. It's time for a quick break, and when we come back, it's time to bring the action. First oval of the year in the iRacing IndyCar Challenge. It's round 3 of the 2020 iRacing IndyCar Challenge. This is the Chevrolet 275 from Michigan International Speedway. After Watkins Glen and Barber Motorsports Park, this is the first oval of this 6-round series, and there may very well be one next week. You'll have to stick around and pay attention to find that one out. But this is going to be very exciting on this 2-mile oval here at Michigan International. Has not hosted IndyCar in more than a decade. 2007 was the last time IndyCar competition raced here, and we are ready to get things going. Before we do, let's have a look at, because it's a big talking point of the rigs, these sim rigs that the drivers are using. What about Santino Ferrucci's?
Hey guys, what's up? This is Tweet Your Seat challenge done by NBCSN, and I'm here to take you through my rig. So, as you can see, got the steering wheel set up, beautiful 49-inch Samsung TV, custom HPP pedals in the footwell here. The sim chassis is built by WR1 Sims, and I'm running an impact seat. But most important thing of all of this is the Dale Earnhardt Jr. mouse pad. That thing is a beauty, and I'm very much looking forward to racing Dale today.
And Santino, as many of your competitors are, there's a lot of excitement about Dale Earnhardt Jr. being in this field. And last month of May, on Memorial Day weekend, Dale Jr. was standing beside our Mike Tirico, our friend and colleague from NBC Sports, who hosted the Indy 500 last year. Mike's got some important words today.
I want to know where my invite was. I've got my mouse. I'm ready to go. I've got my helmet. I'm ready to go. But for some reason, I wasn't invited. So I'll watch the pros do some work. Drivers, start your engines.
And you see the Husky Chocolate Honda Chip Ganassi Racing, the red and white car there of Swedish driver, second-year racer Marcus Ericsson, who breaks the stranglehold on the pole position set by Sage Karam, who just 2 races. But here, Ericsson has done really well. He was driving incredibly well at last year's Indianapolis 500 as a rookie. So we'll see what Marcus can do today. He's had a bit of a rough run in these opening 2 rounds where he has had contact and he's been taken out pretty early, but we'll see what he can do alongside Will Power. Townsend, Paul, let's walk our way through the grid. Good showing too from Carlin Racing's Felipe Nasr on the second row.
For sure, no oval experience for Nasr, but he seems to know how to get around this place, Michigan, for the first time on iRacing. McLaughlin, of course, the story at Barber at the last race weekend, dominated the show with a clever pit strategy, battling his teammate Will Power there and Rosenquist for the finish. But Alex Palou, Paul, has been a front runner in all the first 2 rounds, and he's qualified up front as well here.
Absolutely. Look at how tight the field is. You're talking about hundredths of a second are the difference here between the front to the back. These lap times equate to 2:19.7, which was pole position. All these guys pretty much running in the 2:19 bracket.
Look at Sage Karam there inside row 5. He's one of the most experienced sim racers on the field. He was on pole for the first 2 rounds. As we look further back, Josef Newgarden, the 2019 champion, his teammate Pagano sitting down in row 11. Ferrucci, another sim racer. You just saw the complexity and sophistication of his rig. So all these drivers will be looking to use that massive toe that you'll see here at Michigan, the huge draft, and work their way to the front.
75 laps, rather 75 minutes or 85 laps, whichever comes first. It's Marcus Ericsson down on the low line for Chip Ganassi Racing Team Penske's Verizon Chevrolet of Will Power, who has finished on the podium in both of the opening races so far in this iRacing IndyCar Challenge season. Marco Andretti in the field, Ryan Hunter-Reay in the field, Max Chilton, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and James Davison are the 5 new entrants and what has been an incredibly exciting iRacing series. Ready to go here at Michigan International. Kyle Kaiser in that green and white car looking racy. There's a crash coming to green and about 4 or 5 cars involved in that.
It looks like Rosenquist might have lost it there. Somebody got on the throttle too heavy with a big shot as the yellow's out on lap 1 straight away, Paul. That was visions of Kevin Kogan there back in the 80s at Indy on the start.
It was visions of the US 500, the time that we ran there back in 1996, but a disastrous start for some of these guys. We'll have to see who got through this clean. This is really going to shape the complexity of the race, who was able to get through that melee and who's got a good car right now.
My guess is that drivers were debating, Lee, on whether or not to be in first or second gear, depending on the pace car speed. And just like the real thing, you can get too much wheel spin on the start, and it looked like several cars went out in that.
I think I saw Robert Wickens, Lucas Oil, Arrow, McLaren SP car in that wreck as well. We'll find out who those in the crash were, as behind under the yellow, unexpectedly, at the beginning of this Chevrolet 275. Not the start we were looking for. Do you know what? The more laps that are turned here on this circuit, practice runs and mock races, the general, and this is the driver's words, the general conduct has been a lot better. The early practice races were just wild. But we weren't expecting this. We were looking for a clean start. Let's have a look at a replay and see if we can ID some of the cars involved.
Look on the left side of your screen. You see Rosenquist in the 10.
Guys were getting impatient, ready to go. The pace was brought down very slowly by the leader, and these guys in the back were ready to go, and they just charged up on the pack that wasn't moving yet.
It looks like Rosenquist checked up as the broadband connection of the car in front of him got a little glitchy, and in that, then Askew got a back of Rosenquist as the green came out, and there's a damaged car crabbing its way, trying to get to pit lane. I don't know, is that Graham Rahal or Ed Carpenter perhaps with damage to the front of their cars? Luckily for Ericsson, Power, you know, those guys are still intact and good to go, along with Alex Palou.
I think I was a little conservative. My my estimate at there's 4 or 5 involved. There was more like 10 cars involved in that.
Yeah, we can see Alexander Rossi right there. Was rear wing missing, front wings missing, engine cover. So he's looking to come to the pits to get repairs. But Will Power got through that cleanly. He is second in points, guys, right now. So this is looking good for him points-wise. If some of these guys in the back, like McLaughlin, if he was involved, He's been a front runner. This could be a good day points-wise for Will Power.
So the orders: Ericsson, Power, Nazar, McLaughlin, and Palou as they run right now. We're on board with the safety truck.
What about Dale Earnhardt Jr., guys? Because he was starting back on the 9th row. We don't have a status report on Junior. Was he involved in that crash? Could have been highly likely. Timing and scoring shows him in 18th at the moment, but I'm not sure if that has been refreshed.
Looks like
Josef
no
Newgarden
damage
there.
to his car right now. So there he is right there in the blue
There
and
he
white
is,
car.
yep.
He's heading to the pit lane, but it looks like he doesn't really have any damage. This could be a strategy call on fuel as well.
That was Josef Newgarden, I believe, in the yellow and white Expel Team Penske car heading to pit lane with damage as well.
So although this has got off to a rather inauspicious start, folks, I can tell you that the viewing of the practice races has been nothing short of spectacular. Pack racing has been highly entertaining, very exciting, and the drivers themselves have enjoyed it, although some have said it's pretty obvious who has been involved in pack racing and who hasn't, and who has done more iRacing and who has not. So we'll take that into consideration as this Chevrolet 275 plays out. You see the white and green and red car there about 5 back. That's Kyle Kaiser. He stepped out of line down on the low side, but avoided any contact. But it all kind of happened up to his right, driver's right, and behind him with Felix Rosenquist and Oliver Askew and Robert Wickens and many, many others. PT, we mentioned at the top of the show that you won this track was one of the ones that got away from you. You never experienced victory here, but you had that pole position at an incredible 234.9 miles an hour. Tell the viewers what that was like.
Well, I've had a checkered past with this track. This was obviously a track that was owned by Roger Penske. I did a lot of testing at this track in the beginning of my career. My first IndyCar race for Roger Penske was at this track. I crashed on lap 3 and I broke my leg. And then thought I was out of a job after that. Came back the next year and finished second in my second attempt at Michigan. And also later on in my career, have the lap record around there at 234.9 miles an hour. So it's been a bit of an up and down rocky road for myself at Michigan, but it's a super fun track to race on.
I'll tell you, Lee, one of the things you got to be careful of here at Michigan are those seams that are quite distinctively laced through the corners there. You see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seams where the asphalt was laid down, and as the years go by, those seams can grow. I had quite a ride there in, I think it was 2005, racing for Panther Racing there, got loose on one of those seams and went for the slide of my life. Biggest drift I've ever done at 220 miles an hour. So those can catch you out. And I think the big thing today is as we get deeper into the green flag stint, Paul talked about this at the start, tire wear really becomes an issue, especially if you're running mid to deep in the pack in that turbulent air. You really start to move around and a lot of slide jobs happening out there.
Wherever you are watching around the world, well, here in the United States on NBCSN, in the UK on Sky Sports F1, in Canada, or whether it be on YouTube, wherever you are in the world, glad that we could bring you some form of sporting relief here with this Chevrolet 275 at Michigan International with the NTT IndyCar Series. And speaking of international, you've got a Swede ahead of an Aussie, ahead of a Brazilian, ahead of an American, in Ericsson and Power and Nazar. And then Sage Karam, Kyle Kaiser, Graham Rahal, who, by the way, won a practice race yesterday. As we have a look at Pato O'Ward, the Arrow McLaren SP driver, and his setup at home. We got a sneak peek of this yesterday too, by the way, and watching him in competition. And Paul, to watch his eyes dart left and right and up and left and right and all around, it was incredibly intense.
Yeah, he's looking at that screen with a lot of concentration. So relaxing right now, things are going to get intense here in the next lap or so, and you'll see with these home videos, you're going to see these guys, how hard they are actually working and concentrating.
Dale Jr. currently running 18th right now, looking pretty chill. Whole blackout scene there for Jr. I like that. Not a single distraction except focus forward.
I exchanged some texts with Junior earlier today, and basically the message was, as Marty Snyder reported earlier, he said, I feel good about myself. He said, obviously I've got a lot of iRacing experience, but certainly not in an Indy car. And he said, to be honest, I'm kind of fanboying it a little bit. When I went to the Indy 500 for NBC Sports last year, I just loved it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing because it was his first Indy 500. And he said, I've been a fan of these IndyCar guys like Will Power and Scott Dixon and Ryan Hunter-Reay for so many years. He said, they're thrilled to race against me. He said, I'm thrilled to be in this race. He said, I'm being a fanboy myself, which I thought was terrific.
Looks like we're going to be getting ready to go here as now Marcus Ericsson brings it up to speed. Nice pull away. Everybody spread out nicely. Green flag.
Let's go racing at Michigan International Speedway. Single file restart, everything nice and clean. And let's get some good green flag laps under our belts. Ericsson leads.
Will Power already drafting up. He's looking for a way by. He wants to sit out front, Townsend. And there he goes.
Big draft for Will Power. He looks to the inside, going down the back straightaway. They'll be too wide, but Power with the position as they head into turn 3. Ericsson keeping some clean air high as we ride on board right now with Felipe Nasr.
This is the look of the new aero screen. So what you're seeing here is virtually what it looks like in real life. So as he's now starting to draft up and looking for the lead.
Nasr being very cautious there. This is on board with Sage Karam, currently running 4th. He's working the high side, grabbing clean air onto the front wing, going high on Will Power. I like how conservative Nasr was there. He had a nice toe going, but he just kind of settled in to ride around right now. Now we'll go 2 by 2 into turn 3.
Now, when we go on board in the various views, folks, and if a graphic doesn't pop up, you can look to the right-hand side in front of the driver's right hand on their dash. It will have their driver ID. So before a graphic pops up, if you're wondering who it is, you can see there, Pato Award, car 5. There's the ID there, as he is right in the thick of it with Zach Beach, right there in the Gamebridge Honda for Andretti Autosport. Kyle Kaiser running at the front for Juncos Racing. And look at Sage Karam on the inside.
Sage Karam goes to the bottom as Will Power slides up the track. The tires now are already starting to go away. Sage Karam still side by side.
And look at Ericsson trying to figure out, what do I do here? Do I thread the needle or just kind of settle in? He opts to settle in heading into turn 1.
Nice little side draft there by Sage Karam. He got onto the back tire of Will Power, took the air off, put some air on his back wing as Will Power drafts back up and a slingshot down the back straightaway.
But right behind him, there's double slingshots coming. Nasr and Ericsson. Ericsson in the red and white car, Nasr in that dark blue Carlin car. They both kind of back out of it heading into turn 3. And now we ride on board.
Graham Rahal.
Graham Rahal moving up through the field. There's his at-home view. Look at the concentration as he goes into turn 1. Look at the steering wheel on there. Look at the vibration. That's what it's like in real life, guys.
Off-season mustache for Graham Rahal. A little bit of a different look as he steers the Total Honda for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. Up high on the high line, is that Dalton Kellett? It is for AJ4 Racing. And there is Pato Award down on the low line near Kyle Kaiser, T-Bell.
Yeah, Kyle Kaiser in that number 11 green and white Juncos car starting to enter the mix. Back up front, Sage Karam back to the lead, and Power now moving up the track in that light gray section of track. Not as much grip, but a bigger corner radius, and he's working the speed now. On board with Pagano further back.
Let's go for a little ride with the Indy 500 champion. Have a listen.
Paul, I'm noting just how conservative Pagano's being on the throttle there. He wants no part of an early accident, just kind of riding around, taking it as easy as he can on the tires and not pushing. As you see, his teammate Newgarden passed him about 20 seconds ago, and he's pushing to the front. So 2 totally different strategies in terms of how you drive to conserve your tires today.
Yeah, he's doing the exact opposite of what he did in the Indy 500 last year, where he wanted to sit out front and lead that race and be in the clean air. I think right now his strategy is to move towards the back and chill out and wait for the end of this race because we've got a long way to go.
By the way, in a full green flag stint, of course, we had, 4 or 5 laps under yellow. In a full green flag stint, the tyres start to go away, the drivers have told us, after about 10 laps. That fuel run, as Sage Karam and Nazar dive to the inside of Will Power. Power goes from first to third, almost, side by side with Nazar, and red and white Husky chocolate car of Marcus Ericsson hanging there on the low line in fourth. Remember, that fuel stint is between laps 32 and 37.
Robert Wickens had some major damage in the beginning. Looking at the timing and scoring right now, he is 6 laps down. Marco Andretti 2 laps down. Sebastian Bourdais is 2 laps down. Felix Rosenquist is also at the back, but he is on the lead lap still.
And Scott Dixon and Oliver Askew sitting on pit lane as we speak. Tough break for Askew because he won one of the practice races yesterday. He was in good form. Dixon, in his second iRacing IndyCar Challenge, was really excited about today. Fortunate start for those 2 drivers. Kyle Kaiser, Graham Rahal, and up on that high side, Pato Award in the mix.
Graham Rahal looking really racy. He won at Fontana Speedway, which is a replica track to the Michigan Raceway. Roger Penske built that track, an exact carbon copy, and he was a winner there in 2015.
He also was a winner yesterday, Paul, in the practice round here at Michigan. So Graham Rahal really finding his groove as there's a crash in the back. That's Newgarden.
Josef
and another
Newgarden.
car.
Newgarden, I don't know if he had contact or just lost the rear of the car. He was spinning off turn 2 and got damage as Will Power looks to get the lead back.
Now, one of the things we're doing today is to not go yellow if it doesn't involve the leaders in an effort to get all 85 laps in under the time limit, Lee. So they might just reset those cars on pit lane.
Yeah, we spoke with race director Greg West a little earlier, and he's being very mindful of that, and considering that we had a yellow coming to green, he'll watch, and if there's no immediate danger, running as Will Power in the Verizon Chevy on the low line of the Wix Filters car. The Dreyer and Reinbold entry of Sage Karam. Really great to read Nate Ryan of NBC Sports, his story on Sage Karam and his resurgence in IndyCar racing after being kind of out for a little while, doing the Indy 500, doing what he can with Dreyer and Reinbold, and has actually received sponsor calls, boost his efforts to come back to full-time IndyCar racing, Marty, which is a really positive and heartwarming story.
It's a great story, and also a great story with Will Power up front, and you're right on board with him, sitting in second right now. So how seriously did Team Penske take this race today? They literally had strategy meetings before the race. Dave Faustino, the normal engineer for Will Power, calling the shots for him today, and all of them have a spotter working with them in today's race as well. So Will Power certainly doing very well. And the accident you saw a moment ago with Josef Newgarden also included Marco Andretti and Colton Herta, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. did an amazing job. He split those 3 cars, believe it or not, making it through that wreck. Dale Jr. right now sitting in 15th. He did say a moment ago, I have a little bit of damage, but that getting through that wreck a moment ago, Lee, was amazing to watch.
And you're talking about how serious these guys are getting with strategy meetings with their engineers. How about Junior's old spotter, TJ Majors, spotting for last week's winner, Scott McLaughlin, today. McLaughlin from the Australian Supercar Championship, the 2-time and defending champion. He said, I'm not used to racing with a spotter, but boy, is it helpful.
Yeah, Townsend, these guys are really starting to take this iRacing very seriously. Guys started out with their equipment with very basic stuff, but it seems like everybody you talk to during the week, everybody's upgrading their systems, their computers, their monitors, their steering wheels, their pedals. You're in on that game too, aren't you, Townsend?
I was on a 2-hour practice session this morning getting ready for my first IMSA race. And I got to tell you, it's not something I could do at night because I get way too ragey and frustrated because there's just no shortcut to the time it takes to figure it out. And as you pointed out, McLaughlin, probably the most experienced sim racer in this bunch. He has the equipment. He knows all the little tricks. He has the instinctive feel, the instinctive virtual feel of knowing where the limit of the tires and the limit of the car, where that line is. And nobody's doing it better right now than McLaughlin, as you see him continue on a great race strategy so far today. This is Ryan Hunter-Reay. Now, this is his first IndyCar iRacing sim race because he missed the first 2 rounds working to get his equipment sorted out. And Hunter-Reay was quick to point out, saying, hey, I'm not on a level playing field, not only because of the equipment, but I've got a wife and 3 little kids at home. It's totally different than some of the other drivers out there. So I can sympathize with Ryan's plight because it takes a lot of time. You got to lock yourself in a dark, black cave and practice this stuff.
Hey, I'm telling you, these Sims guys they're the fast track to your girlfriend breaking up with you or your wife wanting a divorce, because you can spend literally 6-8 hours a day trying to master this. And one of these guys who's an expert at this is the leader, Sage Karam, in the Wicks car right there. He's been up front every race this year.
You're right, Paul. I mean, I was on my best lap of the last week of practice at Laguna this morning. My wife came in as I was like 2 corners to go and asked me very nicely if I wanted something for breakfast. And I looked at her with dragon eyes. I'm pretty sure I breathed a flame because it got me out of sync and I didn't complete the quick lap. So it's super intense. And this is even more intense racing at Michigan as James Davison in the 33 Jonathan Bird car is working the backside there of Zach Veach. Davison doing a nice job moving up into the 8th position behind Kyle Kaiser in that green and white number 11.
And right behind him is Alex Palou for Dale Coyne Racing with Team Go. And I really like what's on the side of Alex's car, the young Spaniard, the rookie to IndyCar this year. Shout out to first responders and everything that they're doing in this coronavirus pandemic era. And this young guy, he said, I never thought my first oval in the NTT IndyCar Series would be in iRacing, but I'm enjoying it, I'm loving it, and we all can't wait to see this talented Spaniard on track for real later this year. And you may have noticed that there has been an amended schedule for the 2020 NTT IndyCar season. So at the moment, all fingers are crossed that we're going to get going, get racing on track for real in June.
And you can just see how gingerly Palou is working the high line, trying to find clean air on his front wing. And Paul, even if you're a sim racer, there's no guarantee that Palou's been doing a lot of high-speed IndyCar oval sim racing the last few years. So it seems like he's sort of tiptoeing it out here in the early stage, about 10 laps before we pit, just trying to figure out how to make this thing work at the end of a tire stint.
Well, you just got passed by Rossi. These cars look very similar to each other. As we take a look at Robert Wicken's unit at home, watch his steering. Now watch the vibration go through the steering wheel. That's what it feels like in real life. These cars have force feedback. He's got a SimCraft unit, which is custom built for him. He didn't have a unit at all to get into this iRacing, so he quickly got together a program, and he's out there racing and doing a great job.
And some of these electric direct drive motors that they use, the servo or the motor, you can use either term really, that the steering wheel connects to, they can generate up to 25 Newton meters of torque through the system. So it's very physical. You can absolutely work up a sweat just trying to hang on to this thing, depending on how much feedback you want coming through the wheel and how high you set that torque setting.
Now, if you're wondering what that lever is there right next to Robert Wicken's hand, that's his brake, which is typically set up as a rally brake when you're off-road racing or truck racing in iRacing, but they turned the system around the other way, and he pushes on that brake very much like how Alex Zanardi set his car up when he drove at the 24 Hours of Daytona. So he's got a handbrake, paddle shifters, and the throttle is also on the steering wheel with his finger.
And if you're wondering why, maybe there are some first-time viewers who are wondering why Robert is using that system. He sustained spinal cord damage at a crash in 2018 at Pocono, but has been one of the most remarkable recovery stories from spinal cord injury that you have ever seen. His determination is infectious, he is inspirational, he's an amazing human being, and has loved being back behind the wheel of a race car in iRacing IndyCar Challenge circumstances. Power over Karam, over Felipe Nasr. These top three have been there all race long. The Total Honda of Graham Rahal, then Ericsson. Davison was one of 5 newcomers this week, doing a really good job in that Jonathan Bird entry. Kyle Kaiser hasn't gone anywhere. Alexander Rossi, who is building up his iRacing experience, he sits inside the top 10 over Ryan Hunter-Reay. And Townsend, speaking of RHR, you gave a little insight into him being absent for those first 2 races. There's a connection to you with Hunter-Reay's setup this week. He's not actually at his house, he's at a facility EPX Labs in Miami. And the owner of that place is Jeff Siegel, a guy who you drove with to victory at the 24 Hours of Le Mans.
And at the 24 Hours of Daytona, Jeff Siegel, one of the top private coaches, whether it's sim racing or the real thing, Siegel operating facility out of Miami, Florida. And this is a great battle, back and forth with Sage Karam and Will Power and Felipe Nasr. And assuming they could have good, clean pit stops, you really get the feeling this is going to be a shootout, Paul, all the way to the last lap here at Michigan.
Absolutely, and it's going to be critical how these guys get on and off pit road with good speed. You got to get slowed down from 220 miles an hour these guys are running right now in this pack. You got to get woed down to the speed limit, get into your box clean, and then get out without getting a speeding penalty. All the rules apply in the iRacing, just like the real thing.
Hey, here's a snapshot of motor racing history for you, and kind of on a humorous note, the all-blue car there on the low side, the Carlin Racing Chevrolet of Felipe Nasr, and just 2 cars back in the red and white Husky Chocolate Honda for Chip Ganassi Racing, Marcus Ericsson, formerly teammates at Sauber in Formula One. Would they have ever imagined that they'd be racing each other several years later in iRacing IndyCar Challenge at Michigan International Speedway? No way they wouldn't have.
Terrific stuff as Nasr goes to the lead. Graham Rahal, as you said, Paul, getting up into 4th position. Now 3 wide going into turn 1, just a few laps before they all pit. I just saw Kyle Kaiser go below the white line just to indicate, I think, to the field that he might be pitting this lap.
We have seen, PT, you witnessed it as well, we have seen multiple crashes entering pit lane. In fact, that's how Marcus Ericsson went out of the Indy 500 last year, but there's been a lot here, and even in the practice race or practice session prior to this, Connor Daly had a huge crash entering pit lane. So we will see how they keep these Indy cars under control and getting down to that 55-mile-an-hour speed limit.
Michigan International Speedway is a high-banked oval, much different than Indianapolis. Indianapolis has much less banking, so when you transition off of the banking down onto pit lane and you get on the flat ground with these low downforce wings, you got stagger in the tires, it will easily get away from you as Sage Karam goes back to the front. He just is not willing, Townsend, to give up that lead for very long.
Oh, it's a great battle up front. Let's get a quick update from pit lane with Marty Snyder.
Yeah, Townsend, the top 10 have not pitted yet, so they'll have to come to pit road here pretty soon. Meanwhile, Dale Earnhardt Jr. moving up a little bit more. He is now in 14th. He's among that group that pitted at lap 3, and Jr. saying, hey, we can kind of go a little bit further than the rest of these guys. They may be able to play that a little bit to their advantage. An update on some of the guys in the back of the field. Oliver Askew, as you mentioned a minute ago, Lee, he is out. Scott Dixon, Marco Andretti, and Colton Herta all out of the race. And Pato O'Ward had a connection issue. He actually had to shut down and restart things. He is now 5 laps down. You see Jr. there battling with Simon Pagenaud on the track.
These 2 guys don't actually live too far from each other in Charlotte, North Carolina, and enjoying their time on track. They got to hang out a little bit at the Indy 500 last year as Junior watched Simon complete his month of May domination, winning the Grand Prix of Indianapolis and, of course, the Indy 500, the first Frenchman to win it in more than 100 years.
Pretty cool side-by-side split screen action, the battle for the lead there, and then a big pack in that battle for 9th with Hunter-Reay making some moves, and the battle for the lead continues as Power back to the front. This is just classic Michigan IndyCar racing, lead swapping every couple of laps.
The front 4 guys have all kind of spread out. They're kind of pacing themselves and swapping the lead back and forth, but there's a pack right there. There's a few guys that are running side by side. Kyle Kaiser, we're going to go 3 abreast into turn 3.
Just a little further back, you saw that sky blue and white Gallagher Carlin Chevrolet of Max Chilton. Chilton doesn't race the ovals in the NTT IndyCar Series anymore, but he's decided to come on in at this iRace, and here he is on cue. Max Chilton to pit road. The background, that looks like Connor Daly as well.
It does. Chilton was a lap down, must have had an issue early on. Currently sits 25th. So he'll come to his box as we go back up front. And once again, Sage Karam making a move on Power. You got to think Power is going to have a go here just as soon as he tucks in to grab the draft. And Nasr probably learning a lot from watching these 2 guys lap after lap.
And these guys are running so close. You got to be careful when you come on pit road. You got to signal to these guys and get down below the white line and let them know you're coming in, because if You jump on the brakes and get down on the pit road. They're running so close, you'll get run over the back of you.
Sitting fourth in that black and red car is James Davison. And Davo, as he's known, is a very handy oval racer. Really good all-rounder, and perhaps at times not given enough credit. He's doing a really nice job.
Sage Karam goes to the pits.
First of the leaders to peel off. Karam in that Wicks Chevrolet headed a big moment further back. I think that was Ed Carpenter in the 21, locked the rears and almost got away from him coming to pit lane. Now we'll have to see how they blend out when Power and Nazar and Ray Hall and these front runners come to the pits under green flag. It's going to be fascinating to see how that battle happens, what the in and out laps look like for everybody in the top five. There goes Power.
Peels off. So he took the low line, was flat out all the way around in a car, sliding out right behind him.
That's Davison has lost it on pit entry.
Davison tried to get just a little bit more on the brake zone, and now he's stuck in neutral trying to figure out how to get going. There goes Sage Karam back out of the pits. So you basically lose exactly a lap on a green flag stop. Now keep in mind, Nazar still has not to come to pit lane, or Ray Hall, and it looks like Ray Hall is just about to peel in now.
Here he comes in the Total Honda, straight down Nazar. Oh, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up.
Oh, that could be a pit speed violation. We'll have to see.
He's lost it.
Oh, too bad for Nazar.
He whips it around real quick. He might not lose too much time, but he gets collected by Kyle Kaiser.
Dalton Kellett, that is, that got into the back of Felipe Nazar. All kinds of trouble coming to pit road.
Meanwhile, clean and clear, in and out for Sage Karam, the Watkins Glen winner and the highly experienced iRacer. Did a super job, Marty.
Did we not predict, Lee, there would be trouble coming to pit road? And there has been trouble coming to pit road. You know, a lot of the strategists are saying they're not sure Sage Karam can make it all the way. You see Josef Newgarden coming down pit road. Another guy's pitting now. And there will be other teams that stay out even further than this, lap 48 or so. And again, Dale Earnhardt Jr., we've been talking about him. He can stay out longer than almost everybody. You see on the right side of your screen when they last pitted, Junior, Scott McLaughlin, among those. Pillow came down lap 3, so all those guys can come down a little bit later, and that could pay big dividends. And another driver losing it coming to pit road lead.
Oh, my goodness. Alexander Rossi having all kinds of issues, so super slippery in the final 200-300 feet before the pit speed line. We ride on board here with Dale Earnhardt Jr., so he's making his first stop.
You see that windscreen is dirty. They'll pull a tear off on that. You can get it cleaned off with the touch of a button on the steering wheel with this system, but in real life, they will have to pull a tear off once we get back to racing.
Simon Pagenaud in the DXC Technology Chevrolet for Team Penske. He's getting a little loose, but brings it to pit road in a more controlled manner than many that we have seen. And that will put Scott McLaughlin to the top. McLaughlin came in early, and he has followed. Looks like McLaughlin has followed Pagenaud's pit strategy there, and he dives, and that'll leave Sage Karam, this man here, in the Wicks Filters Dryer and Reinbold entry, out in front where he has been for a long time today.
Scott McLaughlin and Pagenaud in the pits. As we watch Sage Karam, you can really start to appreciate the gap. Look at the gap that Sage Karam was able to put on Will Power during that cycle of pit stops. I show that at about 2 seconds, which is a lot when you think about a 32-second lap. So Sage Karam really showing his experience and his skill in the in and out laps on cold tires and the trickiness of coming to pit lane.
Scott McLaughlin used this same strategy of pitting early last week to put himself in the winner's circle. Will that pay off today? But like you said, Townsend, Karam was so smooth on the pit road, he virtually lost no time getting on and off, whereas we see a lot of the other guys were getting sideways and just trying to collect the car in the pit lane.
And considering how loose and squirrely Ed Carpenter was on his pit entry, he's done a good job to be up there in third ahead of Graham Rahal. So Karam, Power, Carpenter, Rahal, and Alexander Rossi, top 5.
Connor Daly right now, 11th. 10 seconds back. Harvey, Hinchcliffe, Earnhardt Jr. after his pit stop has now dropped down to 14th with McLaughlin right on his tail.
Just got an update from pit lane from Kelly Stavist, NBC Sports reporter, who tells me that Will Power has asked Ed Carpenter to work together to try to catch back up to Karam. So Power very cleverly realizing, hey, Karam beat us on that last round of stops. There's only 38 laps to go. So he's asking for friends and family around to help out. And let's draft together and catch back up to the young kid from Nazareth, Pennsylvania that has been the class of the field so far.
And they're all Chevrolet-powered cars, by the way. Sage Karam from Dry and Reinbold, the Team Penske Verizon entry of Will Power, and the Sonax entry of Ed Carpenter. And speaking of Chevrolet, it's time to bring in now the Vice President of Performance Vehicles and Motorsports at General Motors, a man who we know really well in the racing world. That's Mr. Jim Campbell. Hey, Jim.
Lee, how you doing? It's great to be with you guys.
We are doing well.
It is so fun to see.
It's good to go racing, isn't it?
Oh, it's just so, it feels great. It's so great that IndyCar iRacing and NBC put this together to give us a little bit of joy and a little bit of hope that we're going to get back to the racetrack. And I'll tell you, it's fun to watch these guys run around Michigan. And Paul, listen to Paul talk about actually doing it. It's really, really cool. This track is about 70 miles from our headquarters in Detroit. We know it well. It's kind of our home track, so we love it.
Can I ask you briefly, just a little, to step away from the racing side of things for a moment? We have seen automotive manufacturers and race teams all around the world chipping in to do their bit to help with whether it be ventilators or masks or whatever. Can you elaborate more on GM's position?
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, well, we're enjoying this race right now. The seriousness of this COVID-19 pandemic going around the world it's unbelievable. And we had about thousands of our GM employees and our suppliers teamed up to see what they could do, what we could do as a team to help the situation and really support the medical team on the front line. And so we converted a plant in Warren, Michigan to create surgical masks. And we turned that plant over in a very short amount of time. And we're running multiple shifts there to create surgical masks that we're now, we're making about 40 to 50,000 a day. And to support the frontline workers. And then the other piece is related to the need for ventilators. And so we teamed up with a company called Ventec Life Systems, and we have turned over a plant in Kokomo, Indiana. It's about 60 miles north of the Speedway in Indianapolis, and we converted that over to build ventilators. And so we've teamed up with their suppliers, our suppliers, and we are now building ventilators in Kokomo that we can get to the front lines where they need them most. And so while we're enjoying this race right now, we also understand the seriousness of what's going on. And I'm so proud of my teammates at GM who and our suppliers who said, how do we help? And by the way, the IndyCar teams based in Indianapolis and Charlotte have also done a great job of trying to help in any way they can. Every single one of the teams. I'm really proud to be part of this community.
Well, Jim, thank you very much for everything that you and General Motors do in motorsport, but especially what you're doing on the health side of things right now to help people suffering in this coronavirus pandemic. There he is, the Vice President of Performance Vehicles and Motorsports at General Motors, Mr. Jim Campbell, who has racing front and center. He is so passionate about this, and he may just see one of his cars win in this Chevrolet 275. It's been Power and Karam at the front all day long. iRacing IndyCar Challenge continues here. First oval of the series at Michigan International Speedway. Lee Diffie, Townsend Bell, Paul Tracy and Marty Snyder with you. You're looking at the Gainbridge Honda for Andretti Autosport of Zach Beach. And you know what? This coronavirus era, this unprecedented time, it brings out the creative best in all of us, doesn't it? Zach Veach said that he was worried about not making today's race because he had a throttle spring break on his sim rig. And he said, I didn't know what to do. So guys, he pulled apart his girlfriend's sewing machine and found a spring that fitted perfectly, and it works ideal, and he's running in the top 10. He's 6th at the moment.
Even more impressive is that he's got a girlfriend that has a sewing machine. That's kind of cool. Look at Veach working the backside of the teammate Alexander Rossi there in the 27 car.
Alex is having a great day today. It's been a struggle for him the first 2 races. He is not a sim guy. He says he's not a sim guy, so this is all very brand new to him as comparison to Sage Karam, who's a very much a sim guy who's on a sim all the time. So great day so far for Alexander Rossi. He's looking like he typically does on ovals. He's racing up front.
Looking out the back there, Sage Karam, great shot as Will Power goes back to the front. And then that's Josef Newgarden, another Team Penske car. But Newgarden currently a lap down, trying to get back on the lead lap, Marty.
Yes, Joseph trying to get that lap back if he can. You see him trying to dive underneath his teammate there, Will Power. Interesting, among these top three, they're really trying to work together to pull away from the rest of the pack. Kelly Stavis obviously texted you that, Townsend. But when they work together, Dale Earnhardt Jr. told me he learned that with Sage Karam earlier in the week. He said it reminded him in the beginning days of tandem drafting in NASCAR. He noticed that if 2 or 3 cars work together, they could pull away from the rest of the field. You see that happening right now. However, these cars pitted earlier than everybody else, and listening to Ben Bretzman, the strategist today and the engineer normally for Simon Pagenaud, they are convinced this top 5 cannot make it the rest of the way on fuel, that unless they have a caution, they won't make it to the end of the race. And there you see where everybody pitted right there. Bretzman told Simon Pagenaud a moment ago, you say they pitted at lap 46. He said, we are by far the best of everybody in the top 10. The other one they're keeping an eye on, Dale Earnhardt Jr. back in 14th. He pitted at lap 45. They too confident they can make it to the end, but also, Townsend, it's about saving some tire, having something to work with at the end of the race too.
Yeah, and you can see it, Marty, in terms of how these guys at the front with Karam and Power are spreading out. They flare out to grab clean air, and then they bunch back up to basically form one bubble that 2 cars are pushing, and then in the corners, they each grab their own bubble of air, if you will, to maximize downforce and grip for handling through these high banks at Michigan.
Yeah, it looks to me like both Will Power and Sage Karam are also working in tandem to save some fuel, because you'll see right here, Power lifts out of the gas at the end of the straightaway, lets Karam go by, then he tucks back in behind Karam, and then Karam lifts out of the gas at the end of the front straightaway. So they are already saving a little bit of fuel. You watch, Karam lifts out of the gas. There goes Power, goes by in 1. Then they'll do the same thing again down in turn 3. So these guys are really working together nice.
Hey, PT, just hearing your voice there reminded me, before we get to this end of the race, I need to give a shout out to your dad, the man who got you into racing. It is Tony Tracy's 90th birthday today. Happy birthday, Dad.
Thanks a lot, Lee. I gotta say, hi, Dad, love you. Happy 90th birthday. I know you're at home watching with Mom, because Mom said she was going to have this race on. So happy birthday, and then enjoy the cars outside in the garage this afternoon.
And there goes Ed Carpenter into the pits for the second time. He gets loose and squirrely, and he's trying to keep it under control, and a broadside's on him. Carpenter has been in that top group for a long time. What a shame. That's going to cost him a lot of time.
Alex Palau and Alexander Rossi running nose to tail. Look at this lead group now. Josef Newgarden is in there, but he is a lap down, so he's not part of the mix, but going to start working with his teammate.
Newgarden trying desperately to get to the front, hoping a yellow comes out, but he's got to be so careful that he doesn't interfere with his teammate, Will Power, and his battle to win this thing as Power takes the lead again. Sage will step back in, and now Graham Rahal has caught up to this group. So now the 4 of these guys, if they start working together, they could really start to put some distance on the field.
They've got a 3-second lead, 2.9 seconds on Palau. So, getting a little close.
And
that's what
Power,
Newgarden needed.
He gets his lap back.
The wall.
So now Newgarden gets to the front.
Here comes Rahal too. Rahal is challenging Honda at the front up against the 2 Chevrolets. So Karam, you're looking back at race leader Sage Karam, then Will Power, and then Graham Rahal. And Karam puts Newgarden back a lap down.
Newgarden had to check up there, coming up to Max Chilton. I understand that Max Chilton has an issue where he's stuck in 5th gear. Can you imagine how frustrating that must be for Chilton to not really have a chance to draft up and grab top gear here, as they almost go 3 wide, with Newgarden really starting to put the pressure on Sage Karam and say, yeah, I might be fighting to get back on the lead lap, but a Team Penske that you're going to have to contend with all the way to the finish here.
Sage Karam's got to be careful that he doesn't get into a battle here with Will Power's teammate. Could this be some team tactics to get Sage Karam off of his game and make a mistake?
Guys, keep an eye out on a couple of other drivers. How about iRacing rookie Ryan Hunter-Reay? He's running 6th. Very good, and he's less than 4 seconds off the front. Pagano in good shape. James Hinchcliffe in the 10. And Dale Earnhardt Jr., who has raced at Michigan International in Cup some 36 times. He's a 2-time winner in Cup Series competition in NASCAR. And look at that. Look of focus and determination. He felt comfortable coming into this. And he just may be there in 16 laps time, depending on fuel loads of those ahead of him.
He looks so calm and focused, Lee, as that move on Dalton Kellett puts Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the top 10. 16 laps to go. He's 17 seconds back. So, Marty, still possible here for Jr. to draft up and join this party at the front.
Yeah, how about the IndyCar rookie Townsend Jr. making his way into the top 10? Now he's 9th as you see him get another spot. And a moment ago, he told a strategist, he said, I've been running 3/4 throttle this entire time. I hope I've saved enough fuel. And Junior running that high line, Townsend, he's doing that because he wants to save the right front tire. He told me this morning that's going to be key. You save some right front tire, you have something to work with at the end. But this battle for the 9th spot is getting saucy with Dale Earnhardt Jr. back there having a fun run.
Yeah, the challenge here for Earnhardt Jr. is that he has about a 14-second clean air gap in front of him. He needs somebody to tow with, like these guys at the front, riding on board with power. Look at Karam get to the inside of Newgarden there up front, the yellow and black car with Sage Karam, Newgarden in the yellow and white car. And
Sage
Paul, you
Karam
pointed it out. Oh, here's Karam.
He does not have the fuel to make it, so this could be a disastrous for him. He pitted a little bit too early, so he's had to come back, and I would believe that Will Power's going to have to come back. This could be a door wide open for Dale Earnhardt Jr. to win his first IndyCar race.
How about Dale Jr. has been saving the fuel, absolutely. So this is going to be fascinating to see how this plays out, Lee.
How about Graham Rahal? Of that lead pack, he was the first one to pit for the final time. What's that going to do for Rahal versus these guys who are trying to stretch it? Rahal will have fresh tires with the final 13 laps to go. Now here's Will Power in the Verizon Chevy. Dives for pit road. So Karam, Power, and Rahal from that front group are all in.
The guys who are looking really good right now are Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Scott McLaughlin, who did that early pit strategy. So these guys have a fuel advantage on these front runners.
Remember, McLaughlin and Earnhardt Jr. came in early after not even that lap 1 caution. It was coming to green when the full course caution flew. The only full course caution is Chevrolet 275 here at Michigan International Speedway.
And it was a long caution, so that's why the first stint for Karam and Power was so long. Now we get to see picture in picture. This is awesome. Will Power in the lower right-hand corner, exiting the apron, coming up turn 2. There's Sage Karam. Remember, Karam put 2 seconds on the green flag stop on Will Power the last time, and it looks like Karam's done it again.
The 55 Dale Coyne Racing with Team Go, Honda, Alex Palou. Up front over Ryan Hunter-Reay and Zach Veach as Power gets back up to speed. Then Simon Pagano, Kyle Kaiser, Dalton Kellett, Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Scott McLaughlin.
You can see the speed of Will Power's car now on fresh tires versus the cars that are out there on old tires. That could help him, but as of right now, he's lost a lap to the leaders.
I'm just looking at lap times for Dale Jr. doing 33.8 right now. Palou and Hunter-Reay up front right now doing 33.8. So does Jr. have the fuel? He goes to 6th now, Dale Earnhardt Jr., just 15 seconds back.
10 laps to go. Andretti Autosport teammates here fighting it out. That's Zach Veach in the yellow, blue and black Gamebridge Honda. Oh, we're hearing that there's been a crash and that Pato O'Ward clipped the wall coming out of in 55, Alex Palou clipped the wall.
That was coming out of turn 4, but no yellow.
He's still running, weaving around a little bit. Will he come to the pits for repairs? As of right now, Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's a new gamer, he is in the lead with his teammate 2nd. Pagano moves to 3rd.
But what we don't know, Paul, is how much fuel do any of these cars have?
There's the damaged car, Palau, coming to the pit lane, so he did have some damage that needs repair.
Probably a right rear toe link. And let's take a closer look at Palou's replay. Exiting turn 4 all by himself. It's just up there, and you can see, look at how his steering now is right hand down. It was left hand down before, so knocks the right rear toe link out, and there's no way you can be competitive with an IndyCar out of alignment on a place like Michigan.
So, of the guys who are running at the front and pitted late, it's Karam, Power, and Rahal are all grouped together in 11th, 12th, and 13th. Where will they be in 7 laps' time? How's this going to shake out as Palou exits pit lane and rejoins the racing surface? What a shame for the Spaniard. He was having such a good run. Hunter-Reay, Veach, Pagenaud, and Kaiser. That green and white and red car for Juncos Racing. You remember Kyle Kaiser at the Indy 500 last year on qualifying weekend. He was the guy who knocked McLaren and Fernando Alonso out to make the field. Marty?
Lee, I'm able to watch Ben Bretzman, the strategist for Simon Pagenaud, who now moves up to second, and he's literally applauding on their private channel. He can see what Simon is doing. They know they are good on fuel. They're fairly confident. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Zach Veach are not good on fuel. Again, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the guy they're watching. They don't think Kyle Kaiser can make it either, so this could come down to Simon Pagenaud and Dale Earnhardt Jr. battling it out for the win in Michigan. That would be cool, wouldn't it?
And you remember earlier in the race, Marty, they were kind of shadowing each other, Pagenaud and Earnhardt Jr. So we'll see how that works out here. Here's an angry little bunch at the front. Hunter-Reay and Veach and Pagenaud's on that low line in that DXC Chevrolet.
Pagenaud has to be so careful right now, as we see and ride on board with Dale Earnhardt Jr. Jr.'s problem is he's 15 seconds back of Pagenaud. They both laps pitted on the same lap. They're 35 laps into the stint. They are 3 or 4 laps to the good on fuel over Veach, Hunter-Reay, and Kyle Kaiser. So Pagenaud's just got to be careful here. Stay out of trouble. You're good on fuel as Hunter-Reay peels off.
Palau on fresh tires. Somebody needs to latch onto the back of him as we see Hunter-Reay. I think Veach has got the strategy here. Palau is on brand new tires. If Veach can stay with him in the draft, he might not have.
I don't think Veach is going to make it.
Not be able to get away by.
I don't think Veach
has the fuel.
Here comes Page on the inside is Ed Carpenter in the Sonax Chevrolet. What a shame that he spun on pit lane. Meanwhile, Kyle Kaiser, he's been in the mix today. He's been having a phenomenal run.
Yeah, he's trying to save fuel. Look at the rev lights. He's not full throttle, so he's trying to stretch it to the end with 4 laps to go. Will these guys run out of fuel? Will it be Dale Jr. who's got enough fuel 15 seconds back?
Well, Pagenaud goes to the front, and he's looking good.
Looks like somebody else there exiting pit lane. Now we ride on board with Earnhardt Jr. Now on fuel, it could be a battle between Scott McLaughlin and Jr. for the second position, with Pagenaud looking really good up front. They'll come to the line. 3 laps to go here, Lee.
Pagenaud looking good right now. We know he's good on fuel. He was saving some fuel, running in second and third. Now he's moved to the front. We don't know if Veach is going to have to peel off. He's at a 3-lap deficit to Pagenaud on the last pit stop.
And charging hard further back, but maybe too far back, is Will Power and Jack Harvey and Graham Rahal, and Sage Karam has dropped further back. So discount those guys with 2 to go. Keep watching Simon Pagenaud, the Indy 500 winner. Veach tells us now and confirms that he does not have enough. So that takes him out. Now Kyle Kaiser is going to try and limp to the end there. So it's now Pagenaud and McLaughlin and Earnhardt. And can Kaiser do it? If he does it, it'll be a miracle, because he pitted at the same time that Zach Veach did on lap 43. Kaiser's out of gas, we're hearing.
Trying to hang on, but just not enough fuel. Last lap, last corners here. Simon Pagenaud to the high side, coming off a 4.
This guy has been training 3 and 4 hours a day for when racing resumes for real. Well, he gets his first victory of 2020 in the Chevrolet 275. It's a Chevrolet that wins for Team Penske. Simon Pagenaud makes it 3 different winners in as many race meetings. And for Scott McLaughlin in the Snap-on Tools Dallara for Team Penske, McLaughlin gets second. What an iRacing season he's had, with a win, a second, and a 4th. Will Power will get 3rd, or does he? Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets 3rd. Phenomenal effort in that nationwide Chevrolet. In his first iRacing IndyCar Challenge event, Jr. gets on the virtual podium. Phenomenal effort. Nazar looks like he's run out of fuel there on the inside, and Rahal round out the top 5 in a fuel race It is the Indy 500 winner who is victorious on the first oval of this iRacing IndyCar Challenge, Simon Pagenaud. A really cleverly won race. Phenomenal performance from the Frenchman.
And think about this, guys. Team Penske, with all of the preparation, the resource, and the focus on this event, finishing first, second, and fourth, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in third, right up there with the Penske drivers, as Pagenaud deservedly does some virtual burnouts here. Great stuff from Pagenaud. What patient drives from all four of those top four drivers? Not really a factor early on, except power, really, but Pagenaud, McLaughlin, and Earnhardt Paul were so patient.
Yeah, we saw Simon fall to the back and sit in the back and stay out of the carnage, and then he saved some fuel, was able to pit later than everybody else, and that strategy, unlike the way he ran the Indy 500 where he sat out front the whole time like his teammate Will Power did today, he played the fuel mileage game to perfection and brought home another 1-2 for Team Penske.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. there. It's a Chevrolet day at Michigan International. Will Power, Graham Rahal, they'll be saying, we may have played that one a little bit differently. And then Jack Harvey, great result for Meyer Shank Racing in the Sirius XM Auto Nation Honda. And then Alexander Rossi and RHR, I think, will be inspired by that in his first iRacing IndyCar Challenge. And Ed Carpenter, who could very well have been, fellas, at the front. And Alex Palou, who was at the front for the majority of the day, finishes in the top 10.
Going down further in the results, Zach Veach tried to make it, just couldn't hang on with fuel, just like Kyle Kaiser. Connor Daly, 13th, and Sage Karam had a crash there very late in the race, had to come to pit road for repairs.
James Davidson looked strong, but had a little incident. Dalton Kellett was looking good. Felipe Nasr ran out of fuel on the last lap. Tony Kanaan also lapped down. Good day for him as well.
So that first oval, I think, went, despite the start, despite the inauspicious start, I think that first oval of this iRacing IndyCar Challenge went down very nicely with some different strategies, some good clean racing, some good battles, some smart work. Robert Wickens, unfortunately, was one of those guys who got caught up in that coming to green accident, that mass accident that took out Dixon and Andretti, and Colton Herter was out later on, and Max Chilton. There was a lot of people involved in that incident. Newgarden was a lap down for quite a ways throughout this race. Didn't quite work out for Santino Ferrucci either, but let's talk to the Chevrolet 275 race winner at Michigan International Speedway. First victory of 2020 for Simon Pagenaud. Well done, Simon. We're just trying to check in with Simon, a little communication glitch there, but we will be able to connect with the Indy 500 winner for 2019, the man who swept the month of May at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And remember that the Indy 500 this year scheduled for August 23. So the
I don't know what to do.
Previous weekend is Indy 500 qualifying, and then is the 23rd is the 500. Come on. And here is the Indy 500 winner, who is also today's winner, Simon Pagenaud. Well done.
Hey Lee, how are you?
Well.
I cannot believe this just happened. Oh, wow. That's incredible.
Nice strategy play. You and Dale Earnhardt Jr. were on a similar one, and McLaughlin was in the mix. You guys played it very smart.
Well, it's all credit to Ben Bretzman and also my virtual team that's behind me, Race Clutch. And we work hard to understand this kind of racing, and with the teammates, we work together to try to understand fuel consumption and strategies. And I must say, man, it's a pleasure to bring the DXC car in Victory Lane this year.
Hey, Simon, Paul, it looked like you played this race the exact opposite that you did the 500. The 500, you didn't want to give up the lead. It looked like early in this race, you were content to kind of drop to the back and stay out of any big trouble or crashes.
Yes, absolutely, Paul. And I actually was thinking about that during the race. I was like, well, they're going to think I really lost it. But we were just saving fuel, trying to stay out of trouble. At the start of the race, everybody piled up. We were trying to avoid it, but we got ran into. The goal was to stay at the back. We know we didn't have the pace in qualifying. I think I must have done something wrong with my lane. didn't pick up the speed. So we qualified toward the back and decided to go for option B, which was basically saving fuel and try to conserve tires as well. But we had some good pace as well with saving fuel.
Hey, Simon, it's Townsend. I just wonder, at the start of the race, did you go to fuel save immediately, or did you see just what the start was going to be like before you made that decision? How early did you have to commit to the fuel number and the front tire conservation?
Front tire conservation was my first goal. We tried to stay in the drive, stay out of trouble to start. Really, that was the goal. Then Josef got together with someone, and then that's when we avoided the crash. And then I thought, man, I'm just gonna stay back there and see what we can do. And then when I started doing that, we started to save a lot of fuel, and we realized there was that strategy lurking around. So we used that. It was very, very stressful. I mean, it's the most stressful I've been in a race car, quite frankly, because there's a lot going on in the headset. I have two people talking, plus the spotter, so that's three. and I didn't know if we were going to make it at the end. So with Vich there, the battle was very very intense. But I had a lot of help from Ryan Hunter-Reay there, so that was cool.
Hey, Simon, it's been a really special week. Just recapping your 2019 Indy GP win on NBC Sports, your 2019 Indy 500 win the other night. So we're gonna go ahead and call this Pagano Week. It's been a nice wave of momentum.
I love it. Thank you, Townsend. It's been an amazing week actually to rewatch all this, and I've been live tweeting, and I've had a lot of interaction with the fans. That was really cool.
Hey Simon, before we go, we need you to confirm or deny. We're getting messages from everywhere that you did actually do this race in your full race suit. Yes or no?
Yes, this is correct. Like everybody knows, I sleep in my race suit.
And then secondly, we're hearing that wife Haley bought you a bottle of champagne in anticipation of this victory.
I have champagne right here with me. I wish you could see it. You could see it on my broadcast, but I wish you could see it. It's a beautiful Moet from France, obviously. It tastes good when you get in victory lane. Well, but it's not like the milk. It's not like the milk.
Not like the milk. Congratulations on that win. We're going to go from Charlotte, North Carolina to Brisbane, Australia, to the man who finished second in this Chevrolet 275, Scott McLaughlin. Well done, Scott. Another great result.
Yeah, thanks, Steph. It was, a bit of, I got unlucky at the start, and then a little bit, we got the right pit play there at the end with my spotter TJ and my engineer Jonathan. They were crunching numbers, and it really worked out good there. And just saving fuel and managed to pass Junior with a few laps to go, Dale Jr. And I never thought I'd say that, but it's very cool, and it was a lot of fun racing him, and really proud to put the snap-on car in pit lane and on the podium.
Hey, Scott, it's Townsend Bell here. Just curious, what time last week you had to get up at like 2 o'clock in the morning? Remind us what your days looked like, because these things at 2:30 Eastern time in the U.S. are not exactly favorable for those down under.
Nah, it's definitely not getting easy at all, Townsend. It's 2:30 this morning. I was up and just trying to wake myself up, and then cracked the stream open at about 3 and got going. But it is what it is. I did a few practice races during the week as well, and that was just really good for me to learn. And I'm actually really enjoying learning how everyone races and how to listen to a spotter. It's the first time I've sort of really done that. So really cool.
Hey, Scott, Paul Tracy, you've obviously done a lot of races this week. You won the iRace for the Supercars, their debut race. So how much time are you putting in a week on this thing? Do you count your hours?
Oh, mate, I'd be scared to count my hours, to be honest. I think, look, I don't know. It'd be a few. It's probably at least a couple hours a day, but maybe more. But let's just, I'm trying to do my best to be in the good books with my wife.
Congratulations again, and great to see that you're getting used to working with a spotter, and into this race as the unofficial iRacing IndyCar Challenge points leader. I think you're gonna keep that as well. So another great result for Scott McLaughlin. So we go from North Carolina to Brisbane, Australia, back to North Carolina to say congratulations to a man who's won twice in Cup Series competition at Michigan International Speedway. That is NBC Sports' very own Dale Earnhardt Jr. Well done, Junior. That was quite the race.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We got a little damage in that wreck on the front straightaway at the start of the race and saved our quick fix, but we never ended up using it. So I had a real bad push in the car, but so I couldn't really run with the lead pack. But it was fun. You know, we ended up getting a third place finish.
Hey, Dale, Paul. Hey, I got a question for you. So when you were going through your rehab for your concussions, when you're out, were you using your sim to rehab? Was that something that really helped you out?
Actually, no, I wasn't. I wasn't using the sim too much, but I just had a lot of exercises and stuff like that my doctors would make me do, and the sim stayed parked for about 7 years actually, while I was racing those final few years of my Cup career.
Hey, Junior, it's Townsend here. I'm just curious, when you come out of an event like that, where you exercise great patience and precision and strategy, and you finish, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the middle of 3 Team Penske cars, the best team in IndyCar racing over the last 40 and 50 years. Is there a part of you that thinks to yourself, you know what, man, I actually think I could turn up and do a real race as well? Do you flirt with that idea at all when you come out of a result like this?
No, not really. I don't know if Amy would want me to get back in a race car, much less an IndyCar. But I had fun racing all those guys. A lot of those guys were pretty ticked off about how the strategy worked out for them. That wreck on the front straightaway at the start sort of took a bunch of guys down pit road and put a bunch of us in fuel mileage mode. And so the fastest cars didn't win. The best sim racer today probably didn't win. But this is as close as I'll probably get to the real thing. And that's why I like it. You know, I can do it from the comfort of my own home. And I'm racing against guys that are real race car drivers. All the customers on iRacing enjoy the service, because you never know where you're going to drop into a race and see Will Power or Scott Bloomquist or some of the best racers across the globe.
So, Junior, I want to put you on the spot. It's a high likelihood that there will be another oval next week in this iRacing challenge. You accepted the challenge from IndyCar this week. If there is another oval next week, would you be up for it again?
Definitely. I really appreciated the invite, and I think I need to do a better account of myself as far as just showing pure speed. Just wasn't able to really show it today that we had a pretty good car in practice and had good speed in all the practices, and felt pretty confident going into the race, but wasn't really able to show what we can do. So I'd love the opportunity. Plus, maybe, just maybe, it might be Daytona. It might be Indy. I've never imagined racing against the real drivers in IndyCar at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What a great trip that would be for me if I could pull that off in the next couple of weeks.
There you go, folks. You heard it here first. Dale Jr. is going to race again if it's an oval next week, and who knows where that oval may be. Well done, Junior. Third place effort. We want to check in with another one of our NBC Sports colleagues. That is James Hinchcliffe. Hinch, you there? And tell us about your day.
Oh man, we got caught up in the mess at the start there, which kind of put us on the back foot. And actually, we were running the same strategy there as Dale and Scott. And then unfortunately, on that round of pit stops, I got a speeding penalty in pit lane. So lesson learned: actually practice pitting during practice. I've been treating this less like what you would do in the real car and more like what you would do in a sim. And evidently, when you're racing against real guys, you gotta behave in a real way. So, that one's on me, but honestly, it's a shame, because the Genesis car was going to be, I think, in a position for a solid top 5 there. We were all kind of driving around, saving tires, saving fuel, and it was going to work out. But it is what it is. We live to fight another day.
Hey, James, it's Townsend. At Indy, Andretti is famous for teamwork, as you know. The big draft packs in practice. What has it been like to be part of probably the largest multi-car organization now in IndyCar? How much preparation was there in this week in terms of working together, working out a strategy, and kind of getting to a rhythm as a group? It's got to be an advantage.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, some of the guys were kind of just getting plugged into the whole thing this weekend. Ryan and Marco were sort of new to the arrangement, but Colton and Alex and I had been spending a lot of time together. Kind of coordinating when we were going to go out for sessions, because it's kind of open almost all the time, and so you have to sort of decide when there's going to be people there. And so we've been working together on, race running, and we had a chat going among the group that has some of the, the team engineers on it, trying to kind of help out with fuel and strategy a little bit. And I've got a guy in my ear that's helping me with strategy and fuel and all that sort of stuff. So it's, the more information, the better. And we were sharing tips right up to qualifying there.
Hey, James, Paul, looks like you got a pretty trick setup there with motion. So for all the kids out there looking to get into this, what kind of a setup you got? Steering wheel and pedals and the system?
Yeah, so this is called a Sim Experience. Sorry, it's the SX 4000. It's full motion, 3 screens. I can't pronounce the pedals. It's those Huskenveld or Huskenveld, whatever. And a Sim Experience steering wheel. And it's actually, I'm one of the few guys that doesn't have one in my house. This is a facility in Indianapolis that runs these things called the Paddock in Indy. And they're closed, obviously, like the rest of the world. So the owners were kind enough to sort of give me a key to come in and do all my sim work down here. So it's a very, very impressive rig. I'm very lucky to get to use it.
Well, Hinch, thanks for your time. You've had a bit of a rough run in these first 3 races, so we wish you well next week. Want to welcome in now from Team Rahal, Letterman Lanigan, driving the Total Honda, Graham Rahal. After 2 14th place finishes, GR, you got your first top 5 today, and that was good. You and Will Power and Sage Karam and Nazar, you had some great racing at the front of the pack.
Yeah, I think so. It was, it was good fun. I felt like, Sage got hosed there a little bit at the end to get kind of collected in that deal. But, Power, he and I had a lot of fun up there running. I think, ran up front for the entire day. It just, it's a shame the way it kind of worked out. But, as Dad and I were just discussing via text, it is racing to a certain extent. And, after the first caution they came on, iRacing came on. So we're not throwing any more cautions today. And what that did is kind of took the leaders out of it and put it into the hands of those who were collected in the first accident. But that's life, and so we had a lot of fun. I actually, I thought that it was going to be one of the 3 of us for sure coming to the finish. And it just, we came up a little short.
Is this a Bob Rahal inspired mustache? Is this a wife Courtney approved mustache?
It is not Courtney approved, actually. It started the day as a really nasty little fake beard thing. It evolved from that to the new Bob Rahal goatee, which was awful because there's nothing grows right in here. So that got, she vetoed that. And then I thought, the stash, Dad won at Michigan. We'll bring it back, have some fun. And probably right after this, it will go away. But, I already got a lot of texts like, dude, that is not a good look, which I'm aware of. But, we're in quarantine. We got nothing else to do.
Well done, though, mate. It was really it was fun to call you at the front of an IndyCar race again in the top 5. Towns and Paul, we're just about to say farewell. Final thoughts on Michigan?
Well, just as exciting as we thought it was going to be, Lee. The high banks at Michigan delivered a terrific pack race, and strategy wins again, just like at Barber with McLaughlin winning. Here, it was all about saving fuel. And very, very well done by all of the top finishers to exercise patience. And Pagano comes out on top, showing that he knows how to follow strategy.
Yeah.
I know you enjoyed it too, where we have to say farewell. Sorry to cut you off there, mate. We've run out of time, and the iRacing IndyCar Challenge continues next week, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on NBCSN. We don't know what track it will be, but more than likely with the driver's choice element, it will be an oval. And you heard Dale Earnhardt Jr. say right here, he will race again. On behalf of Paul Tracy and Townsend Bell, this is Lee Diffie saying thanks for watching the iRacing IndyCar Challenge, part of the NTT IndyCar Series, right here on NBC Sports. See you.
Hey Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.